Welcome to Grounding Connection, where we are renaturing in relationship with climate change. This episode is with Claire, who finds it too scary to pay attention and engage with climate change at all. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Betsy.
And I'm wondering how you're feeling right now as we just press record here.
Intrigued,
Yeah.
a little bit anxious,
Yeah.
a little bit nervous, a little
Yeah.
bit self-conscious, I would say, is probably the first
Yeah.
thing that hits,
Okay. How
there's
do you
something about that
know?
idea.
How do you know that you feel
Um,
self-conscious and anxious?
I can feel it in my chest a little bit, so my heart rate spiked a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, feel slightly breathless.
Yeah.
Um, I keep, this sounds terrible, I keep checking the the screen to see how I look on the screen, which I wasn't doing when we were talking
Mm-hmm.
previously.
Yeah.
Because I'm aware of the fact that other people might be viewing this.
Yeah. So I'm going to invite you to just, would it be helpful to minimize your picture so that you can't even see yourself?
If I can figure out how to do that, I think that's a very good idea, actually. Yep, I've done that.
Ta-da!
That's a very good idea.
There
Yeah.
you go. Now you just have to look at me
Yes.
or,
Much better.
the window, the little slice of field out there.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So your heartbeat and a little bit of breathing faster and a little bit of tension in your chest, it sounded like.
Hmm.
Yeah. And once you're off the screen and you did a little bit of movement, did anything change?
Hmm. Yeah, it sort of settled me a little bit.
Okay.
Um, not completely, but a little bit. I feel a bit
Yeah. Do
calmer.
you know anything that does settle you a little bit more? Like,
Good question. Um, not things that I could immediately do in this room.
yeah. Yeah. I was
There's big
wondering,
things.
yeah. And did you just pet the dog?
No, no, I didn't. I can feel him. He's at my feet. So
Yeah.
I slipped my feet into my slippers. I had some slippers
Ah,
underneath, and I just slipped
yep.
them into my slippers.
Yep.
And then sometimes, because I'm barefoot in my slippers, sometimes I take my foot out and just touch him with
Yeah.
my foot,
Yeah.
so
And
I can feel him.
what happens when you do that? When you touch him with your foot and feel him there?
Yeah, I guess I've never really thought about that consciously, but it just sort of it's like a little check in, a little. Yeah,
Mm.
I guess I would the best way I could describe it is sort of grounds me a little bit. I've never really thought of it that way, but
Yeah.
it just
Can
makes
you
me
just
sort of
notice
feel
that?
more in the moment.
Notice that it grounds you. You're not alone.
Hmm.
You've got, I mean, animals are your thing, same like me in
Hmm.
different ways. And just his coat and his warmth, his solidness.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I love his solidity.
Yeah. Yeah. And how does that translate in your body that like just grounds you a little bit?
It sort of takes me out of my head for a moment, and down into so much of what I experience in the world either happens up here in my head or in my chest, I think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
by touching him with my foot or my hand,
Yeah.
it sort of it reminds me of the rest of my body being there almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So to insert here a little bit, most of the other episodes, by this point, we already know what the whole worry is, and we know everything. And this session, I have never met Claire. We had talked occasionally through Facebook, I think, but we had never actually talked. And so this this session is a lot about settling her system. So even before we get to anything, we've got to settle her system because otherwise we won't be able to do anything at all. And how is it to be reminded of the rest of your body?
I guess it's gives me a slightly different perspective. It makes me feel part of the world rather than
Yeah.
than in my own head so much.
Yeah.
That makes
Just that
sense.
phrase, right? Feeling makes you feel a little bit more part of the world. That made me take a big breath. Just
Hmm.
kind of land a little bit more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you just do a check-in again, um, last time or the first time you checked in, you were feeling a little self-conscious, a little anxious. How do you feel right now?
A little better. Yeah, calmer.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the sort of having to interrogate what I'm thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
You know, that actually that's a thoughtful or mindful process in and of itself. Just
Yeah.
actually sort of having to think about how I'm feeling and being able to articulate that to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that it's we spend so much time up in our cerebral cortex, right? And thinking that that's
Yes.
everything, that it's helpful to give it a job. Here,
Yes.
what are our
Yes.
sensations? Now put them into words.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, we just talked about a whole bunch of stuff before we pressed record, but
Hmm.
you said some really beautiful things when I asked you what you might want to talk about today. And do you feel like telling me, not again, but in new words and how you're
Hmm.
feeling, with taking into account how you're feeling at this moment, um, climate change? That's, in theory, why we're here doing this
Yeah.
session. But what's up for you right now?
Well, I think the problem is for me, climate change is one of several topics.
Mm,
Sort of the general state of the world in other ways as well falls into that category,
yeah,
where I feel like intellectually it's important for me to engage. I have this sort of, I think part of my values is that to have a deep sense of responsibility
yeah,
for being an engaged person. You know, I'm a very privileged person. I'm very lucky. I'm well educated. I come from a privileged background, so I feel very strongly that that means that it's important for me to give back,
yeah,
to contribute to the world in a meaningful way. And so a big part of that is paying attention to what's going on.
yeah,
And the problem with that is that it's scary. It makes me anxious. And when I start to engage with it, that anxiety comes up.
hmm,
Um, I'm a mum and I've got two adult boys. They still feel like my kids to me, but they're adults now.
hmm,
And so it's not even just about me. Everything as a mum is seen through that sort of that lens of their futures and their lives.
yeah,
And climate change and some of these other big issues in the world
yeah,
really scare me and make me anxious
yeah,
to the point where I sort of start to shut down, which is of course counterproductive, you
yeah,
know, because that shutting down and avoiding it
yeah,
then makes me feel guilty about not engaging, and it's sort of this vicious cycle that starts to come up for me.
yeah,
I want to be somebody that contributes to the world in a meaningful way, but it's such a big subject and such a frustrating subject
yeah,
to
yeah,
wrap my head around. And I feel like it's such a big problem in terms of how historically we've just kept shying away from it as
hmm,
individuals, but as the human race.
hmm,
And that crisis is getting closer and closer and closer. If it's not already, I almost feel like we're in that crisis in many ways. But none of us dare really acknowledge that because we don't know how to respond to that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so it's that dilemma between wanting to do the right thing and care, but just finding it so overwhelming that I shut down and want to sort of avoid and look away from it.
yeah. So I think I'm curious about this shutting down thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's so anxious or anxiety inducing, and you feel this responsibility, and then it's so big and it's scary, and you don't see anybody else doing anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people that could do things
Right.
personally, like
Right.
um What's it
or
like?
the things that we're doing feel so
Yeah.
trivial. You know, I mean, we
Right.
recycle and we try and buy eco-friendly products, and it feels like just a drop in the ocean compared
Mhm.
to, you know,
Yeah.
all of the poison that we're
Yeah.
pumping into the atmosphere.
Yeah. So out of curiosity,
Hmm.
check in with your body again now and see what's going on in there now.
Yeah, so I'm feeling that real tightness in my chest now. I can feel
Yeah.
that really. It's almost like painful
Yeah.
tightness, and I can
And
feel it affecting my
where in your
voice.
chest is it?
Right in the solar plexus, right in the
Right in
middle,
the solar plexus. How big is it?
sort of fist sized.
Yeah.
But it's like it's pulling on all of the surrounding tissue
Yeah.
into
Just
it.
notice your shoulders going
Yes,
with it. Like, is it okay to
yes,
like hunch a little bit with it and just like really
yeah.
feel into that like pull of it? And you said
Hmm.
you could feel it affecting your voice as well. Is it
Hmm.
affecting it from down here or does the tightness go up?
I think it's like it's pulling on my throat,
Yeah. So it's like,
and yes,
yeah,
and it makes me want to sort of hunker down and
yeah,
physically sort of make myself smaller as
yeah.
well.
Would it be okay to go with that for a second and just like physically
Okay.
make yourself smaller for a second? Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And I wonder, this is a little interesting. Can you like hold yourself for a second?
Hmm.
Yeah, and notice that you're rocking just a little bit and please by all means
Hmm.
keep doing that. Yeah, and just really notice.
Yes, that makes me feel tearful.
Yeah, is that okay? Is it okay to have tears? Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, they are absolutely welcome here. Yeah, yeah, there you go.
The dog's getting concerned.
Yeah, he can tell what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. There you go. And noticing the sensations of being tearful. Yeah, yeah. We're just giving
Sadness there.
sadness. Yeah, yeah. And does the sadness, is it just pure sadness or is there anything that comes with it? Are there images or thoughts that come with that sadness?
There's grief
Yeah,
over, I feel like we've already lost the world that I knew growing up,
yeah,
the world where it was safe to go out and be in nature
yeah,
and be unquestioning about that. Because
yeah,
even if we have access to that kind of nature, there's that sense of threat everywhere.
yeah.
And there's anger. There's anger there as well.
Oh,
That
anger.
which is surprising me a little bit.
Yeah.
That
What
there's an
does the
anger
anger
that
feel
we've let
like?
it. I just think about all the things we could have done sooner as
Yeah,
people
yeah,
and our leadership and how we've elected our leadership.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's frustrating as hell that
yeah. It is
we haven't
frustrating
done
as
some of those
hell.
things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, you don't have to stay in this position. If it feels good, continue. And if there's something else that feels better, allow whatever it is that
Okay.
feels good to you right now. Sometimes that holding yourself and containing all of those big emotions, not squishing them down, just like giving it a container to hold it so that you don't,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I feel like I'm going to fly apart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
I think
anger.
I feel almost the opposite, as if everything is getting like
Yeah, that's what you were
pressed
describing
into this
here. Yeah.
tight,
Yeah.
like the effect of a diamond forming, almost like that pressure. And that feels really uncomfortable. I feel like I
Yeah, of course it does.
actually want to sort of
Yeah.
to just sort of breathe and open up again.
Notice that impulse. Yeah. Just notice your breathing. Yeah. Yeah. And then it looks like there's more tears even.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you just got really activated, right? And sometimes those tears are an indication of discharge.
yeah.
It's salt water coming out of your
And
body.
sometimes when I feel like that, I wish I actually did cry. I feel like those tears come but never actually
Hmm.
release.
Yeah.
Feels like I've been spending so long, so many years in my life holding on to the tears and not letting
Yeah.
them come out, that I can't release them.
Yeah. But can you just notice that you've been able to at least feel that teariness? And
Hmm.
yeah, just really be with it. And even, sure, it would be nice to just cry for a week from all the grief and sadness and anger and everything, but like, you know, maybe one tear is enough right now. We don't want to go overboard. This is so big, right? That impulse to
Yeah.
shut down. We don't want to go to the place where it's shut down.
Hmm.
And so, if it's okay to just really notice, like, where do you feel that teariness? Is it in your throat? Is it in your cheeks, your eyes?
In my eyes, I feel like the tears are right there, but then they
Yeah.
don't come.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not trying to force anything. We're just allowing if it comes. And maybe if it doesn't come, it's too big. And
Mhm.
we don't want to push. There's
Yeah,
enough there. Sadness and grief and anger, anxiety, tightness, that tightness here. Yeah.
it's a lump in my throat too. I feel it there too.
Yeah. Yeah. Just give that attention, allow that lump to be there. Does it constrict your throat?
It makes it hard to swallow. I feel
Yeah.
like, I keep wanting to swallow, and I feel it's almost like I can't swallow.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you just, like, you can't actually affect anything, right? But can you imagine maybe the back of your throat opening up just a little bit and allowing the tears, allowing the swallowing, allowing the emotion?
Am I drinking something? That's all
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
It's a relief.
Your shoulders just like funked. Yeah.
Not as much of a poker face as I thought I had, right?
Oh, and I'm trained to watch. Yeah. Yeah.
I felt almost panicky for a moment that I couldn't swallow. It was weird.
Yeah. And you knew what would help. You
Hmm.
immediately reached for your tea. And I baited you just before we pressed record that I could explain to you why drinking might actually help. And then I said, but I'm not going to explain it right now. Um, and I don't think I need to go into the science at this moment either. But it is a thing, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
knew it would help. Somewhere in you, you knew it would help, and it did immediately.
yeah. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And just notice that it's continuing to do it, right? As we move away from that pain a little bit. Feel free to drink as much tea as you want. Yeah. We're inviting this activation, but we don't want it to just be there constantly.
Hmm.
That's what that's what all these big socio-political, ecological problems are, right? They're here all the
Hmm.
time.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
really, I mean, no wonder we're paralyzed.
yeah. Well, that's part of the fear of going into it, isn't it? Is the feeling
Mhm.
that you'll never get away from it.
It's that feeling of panic.
Hmm.
Yeah. And how is it to swallow right now?
Easier than it was, but still not.
Yeah.
I still need the fluid to help me to do it.
Yeah. And just noticing that, right? Takes a lot longer to settle than it does to get activated. Just like at least 3 times as long, maybe, 10 times as
Yeah.
long, depending, right?
Hmm.
So using that brain, that big, beautiful brain to notice the sensations going on in your body, noticing that lump in your throat, noticing if the tightness in your chest has changed at all. Is it still the same? Has it changed?
It's still there, but it's like it's the 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 tightness in my chest. It's like it's sort of how can a tightness expand? But it's like it's released slightly. There's still a
Hmm.
knot there, but it's
Hmm.
like it's released. It's not tugging on all of the
Yeah.
other issues in
Yeah.
the same way.
Yeah. Instead of being like this, it's like this.
Yes. So it feels more like a slight sort of very mild burning rather
Mm,
than that not that
yeah.
intense pressure.
Yeah. And what about around your eyes?
Yeah, I'm not feeling that so much anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
So it looks like you're massaging your chest right now. Yeah.
mhm.
And notice, how does that feel? Is it good to be
It
able to?
helps. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you can just keep doing that. I'm also going to invite you, if it feels good, to take your foot out of your slipper and touch Ed again. Yeah. Did he finally settle back down again?
Yeah.
He got
Just
up
settle
and
that down. Yeah.
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 And I'm curious if you remember back to that moment when he got up, when you got really activated and he moved around. What happened in you when he did that and you needed to like section a corner of your brain to him?
Um, it just, I mean, even just you reminding me of it, it brought a smile to my face. It
Yeah.
made me, feel that sort of affection and connection for him. And then just this sort of sweetness of
Yeah.
he cares about me. He noticed he cares about me. That felt
Yeah.
very dear to me.
Yeah, you are not
And
alone
he
in that room.
pushed his little face up between my legs and was like looking at me. And it
Mom, you
just
okay? Mom?
makes me smile. Yeah.
Yeah.
And his tail was wagging, so it was like thunking
Oh.
against the desk.
Yeah, we never heard the thunking.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
That was just for me.
Yeah, it was just for you. That's the whole point right now for him, right? It's just for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so lovely.
Yeah. So just checking in again. How's that knot in your chest? Is it continuing?
Releasing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
continuing to release a little bit. Oh, yeah. Moving your shoulders a little bit.
feeling it in my shoulders now. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a tightness. It's almost like as everything releases, I'm feeling
Hmm.
a tightness
Yeah.
in my upper back and shoulders that
Yeah.
needs just
Maybe
sort of
roll
moving
them
out a bit.
super slow. Just really notice how good it feels to roll your shoulders.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that breath. Yeah. Just notice that breath. How is that? Yeah. Yeah. And just noticing what's different now after rolling your shoulders and that big breath.
I feel a bit more grounded again, a bit more sort of
Yeah.
not quite relaxed, but sort of more present in the moment right here.
Yeah. 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 Just noticing that you're more present in the moment right here, more relaxed. So we got
And
activated
that's back.
and yeah, he's like, "Yay. Yay, you feel better. Yay, mom."
You're amazing, aren't you?
Yes, yes, he is. Feel the smile on your face. Feel these moments of quiet when you're just communing with your doggy, noticing.
It reminds me why I love animals so much. There's that intuitive connection that just
Yeah.
is so much beyond human understanding, or maybe just very deep to human understanding in a way it's not
Mm-hmm.
in our conscious brains at all.
Yeah. It's not. It's not. And the more we're with our animal body, the more we get it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another big breath. Yeah. Yeah. What's going on right now?
Just thinking about how, you know so my work is around vets and veterinary education,
Mm-hmm.
and I came to that because of that intuitive connection with animals that I've always had. Is one of my earliest memories, is being
Mm-hmm.
drawn to animals, feeling an affinity for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a huge part of my life in very obvious ways as well as less obvious ways. But how, by making it my profession, in some ways it also distances me from that original connection. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
It does. I worked in farms from the time I was 11, I think. I mean, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
make money at 11. We're not allowed to do that. But
God forbid.
on and off all of my life, I've made animals my
Yeah.
profession. And
Yeah.
it changes it a little bit, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. And especially now that I don't I don't do clinical practice anymore, where at least I was working directly with animals all day. Nowadays, we very rarely have an animal in my working day, unless
Mm-hmm.
very occasionally we have teaching dogs in, or I'm out in the yard teaching equine anatomy or something like that, and I'm actually touching a horse. But a lot of the times, I'm in the classroom or behind a desk, and I'm actually it's important work to me because it's teaching the next generation of vets to have that connection with the animals. But it's like it seems like every step in my career is distancing me physically from them
Mm-hmm.
more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and that's true in a truly physical sense, but actually in an intellectual sense as well. That we sort of intellectualize what we do
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
vets and think about it as a profession, and in this very human, socialized, structured way that it seems very distant from, as I say, that very intuitive connection which I have with animals when I'm actually with them. Now I
Yeah.
sound like a completely crazy person,
No.
but
No. I think you sound very, very sane. Yeah. And that actually made me ponder this idea of what if more of us were more connected to our animal bodies or the nature? Like, how would that
mm-hmm,
change how we view, how we interact with climate change?
mm-hmm.
That's getting a little philosophical, but
No, but I think there's something there that I definitely think about.
mhm,
And I think that's one of the reasons it's got so, so more. It's increasingly got more complicated for me. Is
mhm,
that going out in nature, whether it's literally just petting my dog or going out for a walk or going out, I don't like to swim outdoors, and really, literally, physically immersing myself in nature is always a way of
yes,
sort of regrounding myself and really. But that's complicated by the fear of climate change, isn't it? Because
yeah,
if I go and swim in a river, I'm worrying about whether it's clean or not, and I'm
yeah,
seeing litter, and I'm so there's that even that relationship with nature feels under threat, I
yeah,
think.
Yeah.
It's not uncomplicated anymore.
And as a person who grew up as a little wild child, and that's why you went
Hmm.
into animals, um, what is that like to go out into nature now and it's not as safe, it's not as pure? I mean, not that it was pure when we were kids either, but
No,
um
but we were less aware of it,
mhm,
that lack
mhm,
of purity, maybe.
mhm,
And some of that was just being a kid, I guess. But
mhm.
there's also, I mean, I don't think my kids have ever experienced nature without that complex,
Yeah, yeah,
confusion and complication of knowing about climate change and so on in the same way.
yeah,
Um, it makes me really sad. It makes me sad, um, and kind of hopeless. I think that's what I hate,
yeah,
that
yeah,
feeling of hopelessness and helplessness, which
yeah,
sort of go together, don't they?
yeah. And that was a different posture. There was this
Hmm.
hopelessness, right? And that's different from
Yeah.
this. It was just
Yes. Yes.
saggy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And lack of energy, that lack of
yeah,
being able to do anything.
yeah, yeah. Is that talking to you from anywhere in your body? That lack of energy, that lack of being able to do anything, the hopelessness, helplessness. Yeah, even just the look on your face, right?
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's much more in my head than other things. Although I'm feeling that tension in my shoulders and I'm feeling just kind of droopy and
Yeah. Yeah. And just like I was just struck by the fact that it wasn't just like staying down there. It was just like it just keeps happening. It just
yes, it's like
keeps
I keep doing it over and over
happening.
again.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's I'm wondering if it's the action of drooping more than being drooped. Can you feel that?
Yeah. Yeah. Weird that. You're right. I keep sort of keep doing it over and over again. It's almost
Yeah.
like it's performative. And yeah, it was completely unconscious.
Right. Right. And so there's something for your body there. I wonder weird. Can we do it really slow? Like just really follow what your body wants and you can do it as many times as you want or as your body wants.
The fact that it has to be in my face as well. That
Yes.
what we were doing
Yes.
before was very much in my body, but it's
Yeah.
it's like there's literally sort of a facial
Yes.
frown
Yes.
that comes with
So
it as
doing
well.
the whole thing slow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and some of it is with my breath as well. So some of it about the
Yeah.
picking back up is trying to breathe back in again and then letting it come out again, and almost like it's
That's a euphemism for everything, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and sort of a sigh. I guess that goes with the despair as well, doesn't it? That sigh of despair.
Yeah. 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 What else do you notice? Is there an image that comes with this?
Keep thinking about pool of water, I think, because of my swimming, but it's not a specific place that I recognize.
Mm.
It's almost like it's a refuge from the outside world. It's like this pool of water surrounded by trees, and it's like a sanctuary, a place to sort of go and be, but feeling like it's threatened. And
Yeah.
that comes with it.
Yeah. Yeah, your
That place of
sanctuary is
sanctuary
threatened.
is threatened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that like the sanctuary? Oh, it's threatened.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's that sense of that's where I go to in my mind to feel better, but then that realization that that's not safe
Yeah. Yeah.
anymore.
That's pretty
That's under
big right
threat.
there. Yeah. Yeah. And noticing like is it okay to still be here, or is it too much right now?
It's okay. It's not a good feeling, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's actually a very familiar feeling, I think. This is
Yeah.
how I feel a lot of the time, I'm
Yeah.
realizing.
Yep. Yep.
When we were talking earlier and we were talking about ideas and books and stories, I was sort of felt lighter and more animated. And now I feel like this heaviness again. This feels how I feel a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's familiar. It's how you feel a lot of the time. I wonder how long you've felt like this.
A long time. Feels like a long time.
Yeah.
This is my default in many ways.
Yeah.
But I have things that draw me out of myself or distract me or even, temporarily sort of lighten me. But this seems to be
Yeah.
my default for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. The practitioner in me wants to dig into it. and and at the same time, what are the things that you use to draw yourself out of this?
Um, so there's practical, boring stuff. Like,
I'm going to pause here again and say that um, I'm looking at the time as I'm sitting here. I'm looking at the time and going, it's been 35 minutes. We definitely don't need to go in further. And so we're just gonna spend as long as it takes to settle Claire's system.
getting enough sleep, eating the right things, all the things that we know we should do that are harder and harder to do when you feel that heaviness and that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
there's the going out in nature, for me
Hmm.
going and swimming, or even just going out with the dog and walking across the fields a bit, noticing that stuff around me. If I have more time, I get right out into nature, get away for a weekend and go
Yeah,
hiking somewhere or something like that.
yeah, yeah. And what's it like to go off for a weekend and get right out into nature?
I just did it recently. Up to North Wales for a long weekend and stayed in a little cottage up there and had no agenda, no plan, just could literally walk out the front door and hike up into the hills and swim in waterfalls and but also equally wake up in the morning and know that I didn't have to go anywhere. I could just stay there hunkered down and it was like a little cave almost.
Yeah, yeah,
And that sense of just sort of being able to have that freedom to be in that moment, however it presented itself, no judgment, no, yeah, no agenda, no. I didn't want to come back.
yeah.
I just wanted to stay there.
No agenda. Your little cave. You could go wherever you
Yeah,
wanted, swim in waterfalls, meander around, hike around. Sounds fun. It sounds
yeah,
really fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
It
And
was
how
lovely.
often do you get to do that?
Um, well, I have more opportunities to do it now than I used to. I used to
Hmm.
hardly ever do it. Um, Certainly not on my own, and it just, yeah, it just wasn't something I could do. So it's a sort of a new discovery for me that with
Hmm.
with my kids often doing their own thing and no one else that I'm answerable to, I can do that and sort of learning to try and schedule that
Yeah.
into my days a bit more and give myself permission to do that. I'm planning another
Yeah.
trip right now.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
I just love that you're
just some,
planning another one right now.
yeah, yeah. Well, I've got a few different ideas actually, and there's sort of that freedom which I haven't had. Being a working mum for 20 odd years, it just
Hmm.
wasn't practical to do that. Um,
Hmm.
and so it's my and there's something I hadn't quite realised till I went away this last time that yes, I can do that. I mean, almost every weekend I will go out for a swim and a walk and do those sort of things. But there's something about actually going away properly for a few days
Hmm.
that's it's more than just the sum of its parts. It
Yeah.
actually is more of
Yeah.
a release and reconnection to not just that connection to nature reconnects me to myself in a fundamental way.
Yes. So release, a reconnection, and
Yeah,
reconnecting with nature reconnects you with you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I
That sounds like a
hadn't been.
great thing to do as much as you can.
Yes, yes, yeah. Just not practical to do it all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. So I'm just going to draw your attention to the fact that you're like moving around a little bit, you're sitting up a
Hmm.
little bit more, and your smile's back on your face somewhat,
Hmm.
right? Like there's all of this is bittersweet, right? For those of us who just
Yes.
adore being outside and in nature, and then that's how, of course it's hard, like everything is a reminder, right? But
Yeah.
you've got Ed, you've got, swimming in waterfalls. That sounds wonderful. And yeah, yeah. So just checking in with your body. How do you feel? Like I just noticed the outward signs, right? How do you feel inside?
Yeah, I mean, I'm breathing much more freely again. So the sort of notice the lack of that tightness.
Yeah, yeah,
I sort of want to move around a bit more as I'm talking about
yeah,
it. It sort of makes me want to sort
yeah,
of move and
yeah,
almost dance a little.
yeah,
Um, yeah, sort of a lighter feeling.
yeah,
And actually, my head as well. My head was sort of feeling quite not quite headachy, but sort of crackly.
yeah,
And now it just sort of feels like it's opened up a little bit.
yeah, yeah. So we just settled again, right? Like we went up and then we came down, then we went up and we came down. And we didn't solve anything today, right?
No.
But you felt a little bit more. And I'm wondering if there's any kind of if do you feel like there's underneath any sort of change at all?
And just that awareness, right? That especially when I'm feeling helpless or
Mhm.
hopeless,
Mhm.
that actually there's some little things that I do have some control over.
Yeah.
Um, Even if it's just taking that moment to take a deep breath or to just, you
Yeah.
know, check in with the dog, or if it's something bigger that I can do, like planning another weekend away or
Yeah.
going for a swim,
Yeah.
all of which I've known on some sort of intellectual level help me, but to actually have that awareness of how it physically helps,
Yeah. Yeah.
that feels like a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Mm. Have
Good.
that pointed out to me is really helpful, actually, the way that you've been mirroring what you're seeing. That every time you've said what you've seen, I've gone, oh, yeah, yeah, I've definitely, but there wasn't that awareness of it in the same way.
Exactly. That is all I'm doing, right? Like I'm not like peering
Yeah.
at you and spying or anything, but it's just like,
Yeah.
here, I noticed this. Did you notice this?
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, as you said that, there's something about being seen in that way that is
Mm.
hugely validating as well.
Yeah.
Um, that somebody is taking the time to pay attention to me in that way is helpful. It
Yeah.
makes me feel less alone. Too.
Yeah. 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 You are less alone. If you were moved by this episode in any way, take a minute, pause if you can, and take care of yourself.